Yo, what's up, aliens? I here with another tutorial. So, really exciting news. Steve Duda just released a new update to Xfer Serum on my birthday, May 18th. Look at that. Thanks, Steve. What a great birthday present. So today I want to show y'all 3 really cool tricks that I learned while playing around with this new update. So trick number 1 is LFO point modulation. Now this has been something I've personally been thinking about for a while, and it's just so cool to finally see it in action. And I'm going to show y'all how to set it up. But first off, I want y'all to pause the screen and recreate this patch right here. There's no effects at all in this thing, and basically it's this LFO shape rate 4th. And I've applied it to the level. It's going up 47. This level's at 29%. This one's going up 100. And then this FM from A amount is 27. It's going up 14. And I'm using Trilobyte 2 that's in the spectral section at the very bottom. And I'm playing a pretty low note on this. And also I have the sync button at 2.15%. And then finally, to set up this sound, we're going to drag LFO1 onto the wavetable position and turn it up all the way. We're going to create a modulation point, and we're going to make sure that these things are sort of set in the middle and that this one is all the way down. So it sounds like this. Pretty cool sound unto itself, I think. But we're going to do some even cooler things with this LFO point modulation. So first off, let's try modulating this just with a macro. So we're going to drag the macro to this LFO point, and look at that. 2 new options appear, X and Y. So X controls the X axis, so the left to right, and then the Y controls the up and down axis. And we're going to want to put this onto Y. So you just hover it over the point, and then you'll see Y gets grayed a little bit more. We're going to drop it there. And look at this. This is totally brand new, this new modulation thing. I want to move it up because you can see it's sort of this bar is showing what point it can modulate from to what it can modulate to. So we'll have the sound playing and we'll move the macro. So cool, right? This is totally new. If you want to remove the modulation, you can go to the point here and right click it. You'll see this new section in the menu, and you'll hit remove modulations to remove it. So let's try modulating this with an LFO instead of the macro. We're going to right click on it, go to modulate Y, and we're going to select LFO bus 1. Now here's a menu of all the different sources of modulation. We're going to select LFO 3. Here in LFO 3, I'm going to set it to trigger mode, and I'm going to have it go over 2 bars, and it's just going to be a regular triangle shape. Let's go to the matrix section, and now we can see that LFO 3 is now controlling LFO bus 1. And I want to show, as we drag down this, you can actually see that the new column here shows the representation of this, that this is like the amount in which the modulation can happen. So I'm going to drag it all the way up, and let's listen to how this LFO controls it. Cool, it adds like this whole new ability and more subtle control over the wavetable position that we just wouldn't have had before. You can also remove the modulation here in the matrix by clicking on the destination and selecting constant, and just put it back to a blank. And you can remove it here, the source, by just turning that off. But something I noticed is that it still doesn't turn it off here. So you will have to go down here and remove that modulation. I want to show y'all another really cool way to trigger the LFO point modulation. So we're going to right click on the point, and we're going to select modulate Y, LFO bus 1. And this time we're going to select note on random 1. So what this does is that every time it hits a new note, it's going to jump to a new random spot in the modulation lane. I thought that was so cool. Every time you trigger a new wub sound, it's just going to be slightly different. Now this brings me to trick number 2, and that is drag exporting. It basically allows you to drag audio right out of Serum itself. So I'm going to play a note here. Now I'm going to go to the top right-hand corner, and this new little wave arrow will appear. Now we're going to just hold that and drag it to an audio channel, and boom, look at that. Fresh wubs. Now I will say that I have auto warp on, and if you have auto warp on, you'll want to turn it off so that way it actually has the correct BPM in there. Because you see, if you have auto warp on, it will just try to fit whatever sample it is within a 4-bar area. So if we unwarp it here, you can see that it actually went over, and actually you can see that it didn't fully make it to this endpoint here. So it's just something to be aware of when dragging audio out of Serum. Also, something to note is that when dragging it out, it is not the exact same audio form as what you had just played. It's like re-triggering a note and then playing it. So say if you have like some sort of chaos thing on or some sort of random modulation like we do with the random note on, it's not going to play exactly what you heard, but it's going to re-trigger it and render out whatever that re-trigger is. Also, from playing around with it, I noticed that it doesn't render macro automations, only the modulations that are performed within Serum itself. So, for example, I've got macro 1 controlling the sync here, and it sounds like this. But then if I grab that note out of there and drag it in, and we unwarp it and we listen to it, we can hear that the sync automation is not in there. It actually just records the final position of the automation after the note has been played. These are like weird things that I discovered when playing around with this, so I just wanted to let you all know so that way you're not confused when playing around with it yourself. Now this brings me to the third trick. So now within the effects section, there is a new function that allows you to control the level or volume of each individual effect. To do this, you click on the name itself here, you click on mix, and it changes to a whole new knob called level. And then this is like a volume control here. You can do it on anything like the flanger here. There's the mix, and then there's the volume level. And this is really useful, say if you want to have like distortion and you want to crank your level into the distortion. You can do that here, and you can also even automate it. Let's apply LFO1 here to the level, and we'll turn it all the way down, and we'll play it, and we'll put it on trigger mode and do like 16th notes. How about that? We'll do a downward slope. And it's like a gate almost. That's pretty cool. And you're just like cranking it into the distortion here to get some cool harmonics. And then you could also apply this like with the compressor, with the multi-band turned on, but then you could like turn the level down after if it's like clipping in the red up here. Super cool, right? Now I want to show y'all one last bonus trick, and that is to select multiple modulation points with one LFO bus. So this is an edit of a acid sequence that I made that is available in my acid pack on my Gumroad. I just want to show y'all here what I did was that all these accents here put to modulation Y and the same LFO bus. So all of these are being controlled by the same LFO bus, which is then being routed to this macro 3 right here. And let's listen to how the accents are controlled by this macro. Very cool. So before I go, I wanted to show y'all a few of my Magic Ableton racks. These racks I use all the time in my own productions, and they're just really useful for throwing, just like you just throw it on and it just like works, and then you can like adjust a few things. So here's the AHEE's Fat Magic Rack. Let's check it out. I'll just play the sample. I'll just turn off and on some of these. So this is the Magic Box. The Magic Box is probably the one I use the most out of all of them, and that's part of the Magic Racks Volume 1. It's like super clean. Yeah, compresses it up. The fat magic rack is based off of the sausage fattener, actually, so it adds a little bit of distortion in there. And then the AHEE's magic filter, this will actually almost like gate it, but it's like automating the filter. Also adding some drive in there too. And then the multi-band amp is pretty dope as well. And this is basically splitting the signal into 3 frequencies, and then you can distort different portions of the frequency spectrum that's controlled by these 2 split knobs, and then you can control the amount of distortion and the type of distortion. And what's pretty cool is being able to combine the different magic racks together to create some new sounds. So check this out. I'm going to combine all 3 of these. Yeah, sweet. If y'all enjoyed this, please be sure to hit like and subscribe down below. And if you want these magic racks, I'll provide a link below of where you can get them. Bye. Peace, aliens.